coming at you from waiting in the parking lot for therapy. I am just welcoming our next segment, which is going to be called Words Their Way Wednesdays. I am a geek for alliterations, and so I'm trying to get out more video, more content, and I've just got so many ideas. My little squirrel brain just can't decide on any one of them. So I want to have 3 topics that we try and cover each week. I'm hoping to put that out there so that I stay more accountable to others, because I'm terrible, but I want to get out more content. I have a lot that I'd love to share, and life has been getting in the way. It's crazy here, so that's why I'm filming in the parking lot waiting for Asher to be finished. So anyway, today we're going to talk about some letter sounds. I have different ways that I introduce them. I have some video footage of some games that I've been playing with my littles. I have some pictures of some games that I play with my olders. I have not been doing as much. Micah is the one that is currently an older child that's working to get to grade level with reading. So he and Noah both have kind of struggled with reading. And so he is the one that I am currently working with that is a little bit older than the age or the material, I guess, that the age is for. So anyway, he is much more of a homebody. He doesn't need as much activities. So he is doing an online program at the moment. But when I had Noah that I was working with, and I talk a little bit more about this in the video, there are some coexisting conditions. So I believe he has dyslexia. I believe he has ADHD. He's not been tested for either, but really presents with a lot of the symptoms, I guess, of both. So, and those are coexisting conditions often in children. So he needed a lot of active work. Regardless of diagnosis, needs a lot of active work. So anyway, those are things that I did with him, and I share them as well. So I'm so excited to get started with you all, and I hope that I can encourage and help you to work with your children so that their worlds are opened up by reading as well. So here I am making some more of those letter sound peg things. I realized that I needed more for the number of children I had, and to make sure that I got each of them going over all of the letters that we have been learning. So that's what I'm doing here. All right, so Asher, feed me the Let me see it. Let me see it. That's not the What is that? What is that? Let's put it back. Can you find the You got it. Thank you. So if you noticed here, I used the physical action to kind of call to memory the sound that we were trying to get. So he got it wrong. Instead of immediately giving him the correct answer, I tried to call to mind what he might remember based on the movement. And that's why, as I say later in this video, I love that movement so much, is that it kind of is a next cue before actually just giving them the answer, so that they can kind of call to memory on their own what that letter is. And I have some video maybe I'll share later from probably 2 years back of when I was working with Noah, and I look kind of crazy because I just keep doing all these different signs, but it helps him to recall the sound pattern or the letter sounds that were included in that word, and really I think is a lot of the reason why he's reading at level today. So So yes, I'm using the sounds and I'm using the motions with each of the children to kind of call to memory again. And it does work. It does help them. As you noticed, Asher was able to remember the sound that he was supposed to be making with that letter. So that's what I am doing here. Again, I'm using the two sounds. I did decide today, so yesterday was when I was doing this, but I decided today that we're just going to really focus on the short and long vowel sounds for now, because a lot of those other sounds are encountered in much bigger words. Another thing you might notice here is that I am using a special board for Asher's letters. One thing that I've noticed in the 2 weeks that we've been doing school is that he is unable to look down and make the sound at the same time. A lot of the tightness of muscles also affects your voice because your voice is controlled by muscles as well. So he is unable to say the sound and look at the letter, which provides a problem in reading because you need to see the shape and also know the sound that it makes. So this board was my accommodation, we'll say, for him. Thankfully, his occupational therapist has been talking to me about different educational objectives and how to meet them with the needs that he has. And one of the suggestions that she's made is to put his things that he's writing or cutting. She isn't really doing reading work, but I feel it translates fairly well to reading as well, up on a slanted surface. So this works out really well for him, and it also holds the letters in place. As we're forming words, I'm going to have to continue to think about this, because the forming of words requires that you touch each letter and then you slide them together physically. So I think I'm going to have to continue to come up with ideas to slant his work enough that he's able to look at and make the sound of each of the letters.
Thank you.
One more thing I'll add is that I like to have the child say the sound if they don't remember it at first. So I'll give that physical prompt. If I do need to give the verbal prompt as well, I'll have them repeat it after me 2 or 3 times. 3 again, there is that magic number, so that I know that they're getting it. And then when I go back around to that letter again the next time, I take note of if they got it quicker or if they're still really struggling, and then those ones will be the ones that alligator asks to eat more often. All right, very good. Now, what is their game? What's their next thing? What do we do next? You always tell him what it is, and he'll say, yes, please, or no, thank you. You can also see my hot mess mom self right here in action. I considered trying to make sure that nothing was out of place, but poor Timmy was feeling so sick, so he was laying against the dog, and the kids were playing with socks, and there's my 11-year-old who then I had to give a little lecture to. So this is real life homeschooling. If you are in the middle of it, if you're trying to take care of lots of different ages with lots of different things going on, just know that that's normal to have older kids being coming in and interrupting, and to have little ones that are either not feeling well or running around and getting into things they shouldn't be, or just the myriad of things that you see out, like the vacuum and the bag of wipes. This is real life homeschooling, and you may not like it, and maybe I'll get backlash, but it really is how it is in our lives and in our home. And so I thought I would make sure that we keep this authentic. Also note the myriad of different pajamas that we're in, or different various ways that everyone is dressed. I promise you, Timothy was fully dressed before we started. This is just life. He would much rather hang around in his diaper than anything else. And our 3-year-olds are typically like that. They don't like to have all of their clothes on all day long. And on top of that, he really wasn't feeling well that night. He ended up throwing up. So this was kind of the start of it that I caught on tape. So the getting dressed every morning has been new for us this year, with Jacob going to TCHS. Very good. Thank you. Read me a letter and tell me a sound.
Mommy, you have to say no to this.
Okay. You say it. You have to tell me the sound. No, thank you. All right, pick the other one and tell me that sound. Nothing, not one thing can top the feeling when they finally get it. It is so exciting. That smile on my face and the excitement is totally genuine. I'm just so excited for them, because I know what that means, that when they start reading, they will have that world opened up to them. Okay, so we've spoken about how to deal with at, and now we're going to talk about sip. So I have a snaky motion that you'll see in the video that I use with my little friends as I teach them, and that's a snake, that will help them. Now, I is one of the vowels that has the most sounds, so it's a lot to go through, but when we come down to actually using it, I only am going to use the first two sounds with them. So the sounds are I, like a little sailor, y, and so like a little mouse, and we go through all of those and we remind them that it's a vowel, it's a special letter that all words need, and that it makes a lot of different sounds. And then we have and again, you'll see these in the video. And I also use a game with them called the alphabet alligator. He likes to eat alphabet letters and the kids love it. I use a silly voice and I ask them to feed me. So we do two things that are very Montessori based. First, they identify. I say, feed me the and so the kids will feed me their And then after we're finished with that portion, then I have them pick a letter and tell me the sound. And to kind of change it up, I have him say no thank you to some of them and then say yes please and eat them up to the others. And they enjoy that game, but it also accomplishes the purpose of that Montessori based instruction. So we do that. And then with the older kids, we're still gonna use some of the same basic principles. So kids with dyslexia or with reading trouble, there are very high percentage, I should have looked it up before this, but I didn't, but there's a very high percentage of there being coexisting conditions like ADHD. So they are very active, very motion oriented. And so anything with motion, anything where they're not just sitting in a chair is a great thing. So I learned very early on with Noah that he was very much that way. And we used our big trampoline. And I learned that sidewalk chalk works beautifully on a big trampoline. So as you would introduce the more complex phonograms, hopefully by about 7 or 8, they do understand all of the basic letters. So all of the letters of the alphabet, all 26, but you're going to start to introduce some more complex ones. What I do is I introduce them. Usually when I get to about 6, we really start practicing in many different ways. The first couple of times I would do a game, and we'll talk about some of those games throughout this Words Wednesday, Words Their Way Wednesday. I love alliterations. I'm a little bit of a geek, but I do really love alliteration, so that's how I kind of set up this channel, that Monday was going to be Make It Work Monday, and we were going to talk about accessibility issues and just issues that face families with children with special needs and how to kind of get around that and how to work with that and how to learn from that. So that was going to be our Make It Work Monday, and then today is Words Their Way Wednesdays, so we're going to talk about that on Wednesdays, and then Friday is going to be Food Friday. So we're going to talk about how I feed a large group of children and a large group of people, especially as my teenage boys grow and they're doing more activities outside of the house. They are hungry, so they can really eat a lot. We sometimes get thirds, fourths, it's crazy. So just talk a little bit about how we shop for our food, how we prepare it, all of that, because a lot of these things are so interesting to me and I'd love to share what I've learned along the way. So anyway, so when we introduce the more complex phonograms, there needs to be action right away. So as they're identifying, either they're running away and you're playing tag with them, you can play four corners, and I'm going to get into some of these games a little bit more. I'm also going to show a picture of our trampoline with those chalk on it. So what I would do is I would set up the trampoline with chalk of all of the complex phonograms they have learned. So I'm going to talk about 3 of them today, and we'll just keep sticking with that 3 number, because that 3 number is super important in Montessori. That's usually what you introduce first. You do 3 at a time, and that's the way that the brain absorbs that information. So we would put on all of the complex phonograms that they were learning, and what you also want to sprinkle in there are ones that they're already very comfortable with. So those single letter phonograms, maybe some vowels, because those vowels have a lot of sounds, would be a really good thing to also sprinkle into that trampoline. And then you're going to start out with identification. Jump to the shh. That's one of them that we're going to talk about today. Jump to the shh, and then they would jump to the shh. And then you would go throughout and make sure that they covered each one of the letters on the trampoline. Second, you're going to say, jump to a phonogram and tell me its sound, so that they are identifying, going beyond identifying to actually producing the sound themselves. And that's when you know this is in their brain. So we're going to talk about the sounds and some of the ways that I introduce sounds. First thing would be, I would say, oh, look at that. There are two letters together, and they're going to make a special sound just their own. So when s and h, when they get together, they are wild. They are loud. Everywhere they go, people tell them shh. So whenever we see s and h together, we're going to say shh. Okay, so that story kind of gives them a concrete understanding of what they're seeing. And it's a silly story, and it's something that they've probably experienced, right? Being around friends in a place where they're supposed to be quiet, and they just keep talking. Especially our kids that have these reading struggles and oftentimes the coexisting condition of ADHD. So when s and h get together, oh, they're just so noisy, so everyone around them says shh. So that's one way I would do it. Now with the ch sound, and again, I'm gonna have some of these sounds coming up so that you can see just also how I draw it. I am not an artist, I'm telling you that right now, but how I draw it so that they can really, again, cement that letter and those letters into their brain and understand what they say. So I would say, okay, here comes the train. So I would add in that movement. I would talk about the two sounds and then the two sounds together. So the separate sounds and then what they make together. If you've noticed throughout as I'm talking about how we introduce these, I'm still using the letter sounds. The only letters that use their names are the 5 vowels. So the 6th vowel Y doesn't ever use its name. It uses one of the other vowels' names. So when you think about how many times you encounter that long vowel sound, it's not a high percentage. Now, we are introducing the long vowel sound right at the beginning. However, we're not saying the name of any of the other letters. So I typically don't introduce letter names. And that, again, is what I had learned. I read a wonderful book when I started homeschooling called Mommy Teach Me to Read, and it just was so practical. It was based on Montessori, but it was so practical and brain-based that I was like, this is the way I'm gonna do it. I said earlier, I am super picky about phonics. It's the truth. And that's why, because of that book, and it was like $10 on Amazon. It was a perfect start for me because I really did not want to invest a lot of money in something we weren't sure we were going to do in the long run. So anyway, it worked out wonderfully, and it's really shaped the way that I teach. So then the last one that I'm going to share today would be t. Now, what I do is there are two sounds for t together, right? So when t get together, oh, other people are scared because there comes the sting, just like a bee. They make the same sound as a bee, so sting. And I oftentimes will touch the child with the stinger, right? Because that, again, gets them involved in the process, and that physical prompt is there before you have to give the verbal prompt, so that they're able to kind of recall before they get that next level of intervention. So we have the t that sometimes sounds like a B, and sometimes those letters are rascals. They like to, at others. So those are the two motions that I make for them. And again, I'll put that up, how I've done for joining me today. I hope it was an encouragement, and I hope you got some great ideas for working with your kiddos. On phonics, reading really does open up the world to our children. So I wish you well on your journey, and I hope you join me on Wednesdays to talk more about teaching children how to read. Please leave a comment below about any ideas that you have or any questions you might have about anything I presented. I'd love to know if you have ideas and how you like to introduce phonics and reading to your children. I look forward to sharing this journey with you. Goodbye.